Welcome dear students. In this video, I'm going to discuss about another type of spectroscopic technique, which is IR spectroscopy. IR radiation energy ranges from 10 power 3 to 10 power 5 joules per mole, and this energy is sufficient to exhibit transitions between the vibrational energy levels of a molecule. So hence IR spectroscopy can also be called as vibrational spectroscopy. And the frequency ranges from 3 into 10 power 12 to 3 into 10 power 14 hertz, and the wavelength is 100 micrometers to 1 micrometer, and the wave number varies from 100 to 10 power 4 centimeter inverse. And this lies in between visible and microwave radiation. And generally IR radiation is divided into three regions as near IR, mid IR and far IR. Specifically, the mid-IR region is used to identify the functional groups. Stretching of the functional groups will range in this region. So this is considered as a fingerprint region, and as it gives the information about the different functional groups in a sample. The basic criteria for a molecule to exhibit the IR spectrum is the permanent dipole moment. Means the molecule should be polar, it should have charge separation, and then there will be a dipole moment, and that dipole moment is changing during when that molecule is irradiated with IR and it exhibits the IR spectrum. Whereas homonuclear molecules such as hydrogen will not give IR spectrum as they don't have permanent dipole moment, and hence such type of compounds are considered as IR inactive. As I told, IR spectroscopy deals with the transitions within the vibrational energy levels. There are different types of vibrations a molecule can undergo. First, we discuss that, and then we go for the derivation of energy levels of vibrations of a molecule. Vibrations can be of two types. That is, one is stretching, the other one is bending. Stretching is it can be even further classified into symmetric and asymmetric. If I take this as my molecule with a center of gravity at this point, this symmetric stretching can be both the atoms can compress or stretch equally without changing the center of gravity. Either it can be a stretching or it can be compression. You can observe both the atoms are moving in with the same length. They're compressing equally and they are stretching equally. Such type of stretching is called as symmetric stretching. Asymmetric is where one of the atoms remains in its position, the other atom will move. Either it can be compressed or it can be stretched. So such type of movement is called as asymmetric stretching. Yeah, this is a normal molecule I'm considering, and this is one is kept in its position itself and the other one is just stretched. Another type of vibration is bending. In bending, the bond angle is going to change, and that bending can be in plane or out plane. The movement of atoms can be within the plane, in the same plane, or it can be in a different plane. It can be towards you and away from you. Such type of movement comes under out plane. And this in plane can be further classified into rocking and scissoring. And this rocking is, as shown in the figure, these two atoms are moving towards same direction, either towards right side or towards left side. If this is taking place within plane, that is called rocking. If it happens out of plane, that is considered as wagging. And scissoring is another in-plane bending where both the atom approaches to each other or move away from each other. If this happens within the plane, that is considered as scissoring. If it is out of plane, that is called twisting. So any of these vibrations can make a molecule to change their dipole moment, and hence they can, when they are irradiated with IR, they can give IR spectrum if the molecule is polar. I'll show you different types of vibrations and bendings. You can observe this. This is symmetric when both are moving upward or downward same equally. This is asymmetric stretching where one is moving down and one is moving up. And this is rocking is in plane in same direction. Wagging is out of plane. Wagging is done in out of plane, and twisting is also an out of plane. Scissoring is in plane. These two comes under in plane, and these two comes under out plane bendings, and these two will comes under stretching vibrations. Come to the mechanism of IR spectroscopy. Here, the symmetric stretching of carbon dioxide molecule is not IR active, but carbon dioxide molecule will exhibit asymmetric stretching where one of the oxygen atom may be this, if I consider this as a normal CO2 structure, and here one of the oxygen is remains in its position and the other one is compressed. Or else one of the oxygen atom remains in its position, the other oxygen may stretch. So this is considered as asymmetric stretching. The asymmetric stretching of carbon dioxide is IR active. Let's discuss the mechanism by considering this stretching and bending of carbon dioxide. Here I consider the stretching where for our convenience I just represented the CO2 in this manner, and here I took initially the normal carbon dioxide, and then the next moment asymmetric stretching is this oxygen stretched. Okay. This oxygen is stretched downward and the dipole direction is changed downward, and I represented in the graph in this manner, and after some time just reaches to normal position, and then another oxygen is stretched upward. So the dipole moment direction is upward. So our graph is represented like this, and then after some time it reaches the normal position. So the graph is reaching this point, center point, and then again in the downward, this oxygen is moving stretched downward. So this is represented like this. If you consider the asymmetric stretching of carbon dioxide, it just has the sine wave nature. It has particular frequency with which it is stretching with time, and it represented as this sine wave form. And even if you consider the bending also, initially the molecule is arranged like this. When it is bent upward, the direction of dipole is upward, and then it comes back to normal position, and then it can bend downward, and then it comes back to the normal position. If this is represented, this form of direction of dipole is represented with the time in the graphical manner, we will get again a sine wave. Either it is stretching or bending, the carbon dioxide is exhibiting the frequency, a constant frequency with which it is either stretching or bending. It has a particular frequency. And when the frequency of this radiation, when is in resonance with the frequency of the carbon dioxide molecule with which it is stretching or bending, then absorption of radiation will take place, and then it gives the IR spectrum. That is a major concept mechanism of IR spectroscopy. The molecule is generally having a frequency with which it is stretching or bending, and that frequency of a molecule should be in resonance with the uh, frequency of radiation, and then absorption takes place, excitation takes place, and then it gives the IR spectrum. And from IR spectrum we can decode what is that functional group which exhibited that type of stretching or bending based on the standard values. Let's consider the energy of diatomic molecule. Generally, here I'm taking an example of HCl, where hydrogen and chlorine will be in equilibrium bond distance, where the repulsion of both the chlorine and hydrogen's electrons and the attraction of this one of the nucleus to the other atom's electrons are balanced. At that particular position, the hydrogen and chlorine will remain, and which is considered as a equilibrium distance between hydrogen and chlorine, or we can consider it as a bond length. And that bond length here are represented as Req. If the hydrogen is in this position and the chlorine is here, that is the minimum or equilibrium distance where that repulsion between the two atoms or attraction between the two atoms are equal, and then molecule is stabilized. That is represented as Req, and the equilibrium bond distance or bond length as Req. Here in this graph, I represented if the molecule is stretched or compressed, what happens to its energy? The energy of the molecule, is it varying with the compression or stretching from its mean position? That's what represented in the graph. And let me consider this is the mean position of hydrogen, as this is Req. For suppose the hydrogen is stretched towards the chlorine, and then it is, or else it can be pulled away from its mean position, center position. Here when I compressed, we have to apply pressure on the molecule because there will be some repulsion between the hydrogen and chlorine electrons, and the energy will be raised than in this position. If the hydrogen is here at the center point, it will be in equilibrium. But when I compressed it, there will be some repulsive forces, and because of which the energy will be raised. Or else if I stretched it equally, how much I compressed, in such a case also the attraction between the molecules, between the two atoms is reduced, so that the stability will be reduced and the energy will be raised. If the hydrogen atom is at this position, energy is less. But when I compressed or stretched it, the energy of that molecule is raised. If still I continue the compression more, then the energy will be still raised. And if even in the same case, whenever it is stretched, in such a case also the energy will be raised. The molecule will be generally in its equilibrium bond distance. Whenever it is irradiated with IR radiation, it absorbs some energy and started exciting to the next level. Consider this level as E1 and this level as E2. If for suppose the molecule is at E level, it is irradiated with IR radiation, then it started exciting to the higher level. That means it started vibrating vigorously. It will compress more and stretch more than in E1 level. The vibration will become vigorous, but the frequency with which it is vibrating will not be affected. The vibrational frequency will remain constant, though it is irradiated with radiation. Let's discuss the energy of different energy levels, vibrational energy levels, and how to derive the derivation for the calculation of energy. Let's discuss that. We start with the Hooke's law. As I mentioned here, this will be the Req. Whenever it is stretched or compressed, the bond length is changing, which can be even represented as R dash or R double dash. Whenever it is compressed, I just consider it as R dash, and whenever it is stretched, it is considered as R double dash. And when, if for suppose the molecule is in this position of Req, it is stable, but we try to stretch it to a new distance, or we try to compress it to a new distance, which is called a displacement. Displacement, which is represented as x. So the force, restoring force, the molecule will try to restore its normal position. That restoring force is proportional to the displacement, whatever the displacement it is. If it is compressed, the molecule will exhibit the restoring force in the opposite direction. As it is compressed, it has to come back to this position. So it just applies the restoring force in opposite direction. The atoms are moving in this direction and the restoring force is acting in this direction. Whereas whenever we consider the case of stretching, the atoms are moving towards right side. This atom I'm considering, this atom I'm considering, this is moving towards right side from its mean position, and the restoring force will be towards the left side. The restoring force is proportional to the displacement, and it is given with a negative symbol because the direction of the restoring force and the displacement are opposite to each other. If you relate it, we'll get the equation F is equal to minus kx, and here k is a force constant, and x is the displacement and F is the restoring force. Where x can be, the displacement means a new distance, the difference between the new distance and the Req. And here for our convenience, we are going to consider the stretching, where x can be equal to R minus Req. Where Req is the equilibrium distance, R is the new distance, new internuclear distance. So thus the restoring force F can be represented as minus K into R minus Req. And the energy curve, if you observed in the previous slide also, you got a parabolic curve here. And the energy curve is a parabolic, and it can be represented in the form of half kx square, where x can be R minus Req. So it can be E is equal to 1 by 2 k R minus Req whole square. So the oscillational frequency of a molecule, I told you, though it is excited to the higher level, the oscillational frequency will, remains constant, but the vibrations will become more vigorous. So this oscillational frequency, which is represented as omega oscillation, is given as 1 by 2 pi root k by mu hertz, where this mu is a reduced mass and k is the force constant. So the oscillational frequency is represented in the units hertz. But in IR spectroscopy, we use wave number instead of the frequency. So in order to convert this frequency into the wave number, we can use this relation nu lambda is equal to C, or from which nu can be represented as C by lambda. We know that 1 by lambda is nothing but the wave number. I can write that relation as nu is equal to C into nu bar, when this nu bar is the wave number. So in order to get the wave number in centimeter inverse, you can divide the frequency with C. So by using this formula, we can convert this omega oscillation, which is represented in hertz, to omega bar oscillation in terms of centimeter inverse. That one thing what we need to do is we have to divide the omega oscillation with C. So our equation become 1 by 2 pi C root k by mu in centimeter inverse. The vibrational energy of a molecule is quantized, and the energy which is derived from the Schrodinger wave equation is given as EV is equal to V plus 1 by 2 H omega oscillation in joules. This is represented in joules. Please make a note. Here H is a Planck's constant and omega oscillation is the oscillational frequency and V is the vibrational quantum number. This V value can be 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. But I told you that IR spectrum, in IR spectrum, we use wave number instead of wave frequency or energy, and we can convert this energy into wave number. And for that, again, we use the formula nu bar is equal to 1 by lambda, which can be given as E by Hc. EV means the previous one I just represented this V. V represents the vibrational energy level, that EV by Hc. And this you got it. I think this is from this relation E is equal to H nu, and nu can be represented as C by lambda, from where 1 by lambda is equal to E by Hc. This 1 by lambda is nothing but the wave number. So if in order to convert the energy from joules to wave number, you have to divide this energy by with Hc. So I'll get energy in order to differentiate this energy in joules and energy in centimeters inverse, I just use the symbol epsilon. Epsilon V is equal to EV by Hc. So our equation become V plus 1 by 2 into H omega oscillation by Hc. This H and this H get cancelled. So what I got is omega oscillation by C. This omega oscillation by C is nothing but omega bar oscillation. So the epsilon V, which is represented in centimeter inverse, can be equal to V plus 1 by 2 omega bar oscillation centimeter inverse. And this is the energy of vibrational energy, allowed vibrational energy levels of a molecule. And if V, as I told you, the V value can be 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Let's calculate the different energy levels. If V is equal to 0, what is its energy in joules and in centimeters? If you consider V is equal to 0, we will get the energy equal to 1 by 2 omega bar oscillation in centimeter inverse. If you want to represent this in terms of joules, it is equal to 1 by 2 H omega oscillation in joules. The only difference is here I have omega bar oscillation and here I have H omega oscillation. We're just dividing this with the Hc and we represent in terms of centimeter inverse. If V is equal to 1, I'll get 3 by 2 omega bar oscillation. V is equal to 2, 5 by 2. If you substitute 3, V is equal to 3, then I'll get 7 by 2 V omega bar oscillation in centimeter inverse. And just if it is 4, 9 by 2, 5, 11 by 2 and so on. If you plot a graph to the energy in terms of centimeter inverse and to internuclear distance, you will get a parabolic curve and you can observe the energy gap between any two levels. The gap between 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, it is equal. They are equally spaced. And hence we can expect if the molecule is there at V is equal to 0, it requires the same energy to excite to the next level. Or if the molecule is at V is equal to 3, it needs the same amount of energy to excite to V is equal to 4. So whenever the molecule is irradiated with the IR radiation of the enough energy, then molecule will absorb and we can expect only one peak. This is represented as omega bar oscillation. The selection rule for this IR spectrum is delta V is equal to plus or minus 1. Here, this plus indicates the absorption of radiation and minus indicates the emission of radiation. And if you calculate the difference, I mentioned here the gap between any two energy levels is same, which is equal to omega bar oscillation. You can substitute and calculate. If transition is between 0 to 1, we'll get the energy omega bar oscillation in centimeter inverse. And if it is 1 to 2 also, I'll get the same thing. If it is V from any next successive level, which is allowed, and then the energy gap is V omega bar oscillation. so that we can expect only one peak in the spectrum. But this is not actually happening. We are not getting one peak for the molecule. So we have another idea. This is whenever we consider the molecule is under harmonic oscillation. But the molecule is not under harmonic oscillation. If a molecule is allowed to move, stretch or compress, after some time the bond can break, and the oscillations are not simple harmonic. It is considered as anharmonic oscillator. To explain the anharmonic oscillator, where we use the Morse curve. Look at the image here. I have just represented both the curves. Here this green color curve parabola represented the harmonic oscillation, whereas the anharmonic oscillator, we will get the peak like this. We'll get the graph in the form of this. There will be some deviation, like whenever it is slowly at the lower compressions or stretchings, it can exhibit the harmonic oscillation, but when it is moving to the higher levels of vibrational levels, it just deviates from the harmonic oscillation, and after certain point it just the bond will dissociate because the bond is not under harmonic oscillation. In order to explain this, we take the help of Morse curve. And here the real molecules, as they are not obeying the simple harmonic motion, they are obeying this anharmonic oscillator. For that, energy can be given as dEq into 1 minus exponential power alpha into Req minus R whole square, where this alpha is the constant value for a particular molecule, and this dEq is the dissociation energy. And the Morse curve gives us the formula for anharmonic oscillations. It can be a stretching or compression, which is given as V plus 1 by 2 omega bar E minus V plus 1 by 2 whole square omega bar E XE. There is a term which is subtracted from the actually proposed term for the harmonic oscillator. So the energy that we can expect for real molecules is less than when you consider the motion as a harmonic oscillator. Let's calculate if V is equal to 0, what is its energy, and V is equal to 1, what is its energy. The energy, if it is a harmonic oscillator, we'll get the energy which is equal to 1 by 2 omega bar E. But as it is anharmonic, we will get 1 by 2 omega bar E minus 1 by 4 omega bar E XE. V is equal to 1, we will get 3 by 2 omega bar E minus 9 by 4 omega bar E XE. V is equal to 2 means we will get 5 by 2 omega bar E minus 25 by 4 omega bar E XE. And you can observe that the values, the respective values for V is equal to 0 and V is equal to 1, the gap between these two levels are reducing as we move on to the higher vibrational energy quantum number. That because this term which we are subtracting is increasing. And so that as we are moving on to the higher energy levels, here the gap between any two successive levels are reducing. So that if the molecule is at V is equal to 0, it requires different energy to excite to one level, or if a molecule at 6, it needs different energy to excite to the next level 7. Because the energy gap between any two successive levels are not same. As we move on to the higher energy levels, the gap is reducing. And so that we can expect different peaks for different molecules which are at one particular vibrational level. And the selection rule for anharmonic oscillator is not simply as plus or minus 1. It can be even plus or minus 1 or plus or minus 2 and plus or minus 3 and so on. And these are all considered, other than the plus or minus 1, these are all considered as the overtones. And let's calculate if the transition is for plus or minus 1. The energy gap can be given as omega bar E 1 minus 2 XE. You can just subtract one term, that is V is equal to 1, I gave you the values here in this. So V is equal to 1 is this, minus V is equal to 0 is this. So you will get omega bar E 1 minus 2 Xe. For plus 2 transition from V is equal to 0 to 2, I don't get the same energy gap, but I'll get 2 omega bar E 1 minus 3 Xe. For plus 3, I'll get 3 omega bar E 1 minus 4 Xe. Means for depending on the transition, whether the transition is plus 1 or plus 2 or plus 3, I'll get different peaks, and which can be represented as approximately equal to omega bar E for plus 1, and which is for plus 2 it is omega bar 2 omega bar E, and for plus 3 it is 3 omega bar E. So for that particular transition, we will get one peak, so that for real molecules, I can get more than one peak in the IR spectrum. Then from that spectrum, what do we get? One thing that we can know is dipole moment can be known, and the purity of the molecules can be identified. If you just run the molecule, the IR spectrum, if you got other than the expected peak, if you got any other peak, that peak indicates an impurity. So the purity can be checked, and we can distinguish the intermolecular, intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and we can elucidate the structure of an unknown sample. And most important application is the functional groups can be identified by using the IR spectrum. But there are few limitations also. Though we get the functional groups, we are unable to know the exact molecular weight of a sample, and the relative positions of the functional groups can also not be known by the IR spectrum. I will discuss about the NMR spectroscopy in my next video. Please do refer. Thank you.